Good evening, viewers, and we want to welcome you once again to our health program. This week we've had many topics. We have enjoyed Dr. Kim Wangai's presentations. He started off by telling us how to guard our hearts, how we can help somebody who's had a heart attack, how we can do what is called CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation. Then we went on to learn about diabetes, how we can manage diabetes. We also talked about removing the tension in the hypertension. And then we also talked about foods, how to get rid of the myth of cancer. And we also talked about COVID-19, which is actually what is affecting the world today. Dr. Kim Wangai, as we know, is an expert in infectious diseases. And this pandemic, this disease, coronavirus, this is what he actually deals with most of the time. So today we have come to the end of these camp meeting health sessions, and we are grateful. We are grateful to Dr. Wangai for finding time from his very, very busy practice to come and teach us, to come and educate us about some of the salient points in the health program. Today, Dr. Kim Wangai is going to give a summary of all the topics that he has discussed throughout this week. Remember, we had asked you to send your questions to the live chat. Dr. Kim Wangai is going to answer those questions. So please, if you have any question, anything that is burning, anything that you didn't have time to ask during the week, this is the time that you have. So I'd like to welcome Dr. Kim Wangai to go through a summary of what he has presented to us. Welcome, Dr. Wangai.
Thank you very much. And thank you, dear viewers, for joining us this week as we've gone through a whirlwind of very interesting health topics. Just by way of summary, really, today that we'll just fly through. Buckle up your seatbelts as we'll take you quickly through all the topics that we've gone through this week. This week we've been focusing on the theme, guarding your heart, based on, again, the verse, Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23, that says, guard your heart with all diligence. Why? For from it flow springs of life. And yes, through this, we're able to see what exactly is this life that we need to guard that is inside our hearts. And we discovered that this life is indeed contained in our blood. Therefore, what are the diseases that indeed affect our blood and our cardiovascular system, and that the heart pumps throughout the whole body? As you can see, number one, we were able to talk about blood vessel diseases, as you can see. So this shows just a picture of how the blood vessels get narrower and narrower due to diseases such as cholesterol, diabetes, blood clots, hypertension, and eventually the blood vessels thicken and get clogged up to the point where no blood can pass through the vessels anymore. And when this happens, sudden death is imminent. You get cardiac death, you can get a heart attack, get brain damage, we can get kidney damage as well. On Sunday, we talked about how to survive a heart attack, just for example, and we went through just some 5 easy steps on how to survive a heart attack. Dr. Kireki, this nice little acronym, SSSCAB, where we talked about safety, stimulation, shouting for help, being able to ensure that we have good circulation, checking our airway, and lastly, being able to breathe for our patient or for a person who's going through a heart attack. SSSCAB as the key points to remember in basic life support or CPR. Then we talked about what are some of the things that indeed cause heart disease and even heart attack. Top of the list is diabetes. Many of us know someone who's had diabetes, know someone who's been affected by diabetes. Some of us even have diabetes ourselves. And we talked about the secrets on how to reverse diabetes. It is possible to actually get off a lot of the insulin that we're on and reduce our medications if we follow the secrets on how to reverse diabetes. Talked about diabetes being a disease that affects virtually almost every organ in the body and the various complications, and we're able to see that indeed type 2 diabetes on a large scale is actually reversible. Very reversible. How? Just by increasing our activity and having a healthy diet, one is able to indeed reverse your state of hyperglycemia to what we call normal glycemia, having normal blood sugar levels through lifestyle secrets. And we talked about different lifestyle secrets, including having a low-fat, a low-sugar diet, what type of diet to have, what type of vegetables to eat, what type of fruits to eat, grains, legumes. We talked about food and the different colors in food, and what the colors in food can be able to signify the various benefits in reversing diabetes. The next day we also talked about how to remove the tension in hypertension. Now, hypertension being a cardiovascular disease, just like diabetes, which is a cardiovascular equivalent, really the same risk factors to avoid in diabetes also apply for hypertension. In hypertension, we talked about the magic numbers of hypertension, being able to know that systolic blood pressure, we define systolic blood pressure, diastolic blood pressure, being able to know that most of the time we need to range under 140 systolic and under 90 of diastolic. We're able to see also that by reducing our systolic blood pressure by 10 millimeters of mercury, for every decrease in 10, we're able to actually reduce our risk of stroke, heart attack, death by over 20%. And therefore, how do I decrease my blood pressure by 10 milligrams? We're able to see that weight loss, exercise, diet, salt reduction, cessation of alcohol are just some of the things that individually, once we take care of these factors, are able to reduce our blood pressure naturally without any medicine or any medical intervention. We talked about how to exercise, what type of exercise is indeed the best or appropriate to reduce and reverse our diabetes and also our hypertension. We talked about the acronym FITT. Frequency, intensity, time, and the different types of exercise. The following day we talked about cancer, and we debunked various myths about cancer. Is cancer a death sentence? No, it is not. Can we prevent cancer? Yes, indeed we can prevent cancer, again through the same risk factors. Losing weight reduces our risk of cancer. Having the right diet, reducing our meat intake, being able to exercise and avoid harmful things like tobacco, alcohol, pollution and safe sex. Some of the things really that we can be able to reduce our risk of cancer. Again, fighting cancer with color and the various foods that indeed help to prevent cancer. We talked about that. We also talked about 15 cancer signs that we should not ignore. Are there some things, some symptoms we see in our bodies that look suspicious, that could be heralding the early signs of cancer? We went through 15 different cancer signs not to ignore. Then yesterday we had a very special panel here of some of my patients who have recovered from COVID-19, and they were able to give their own experiences. And basically we also got to debunk some of the myths that are surrounding indeed the whole phenomenon, or the whole scary COVID-19 pandemic. We're able to see that majority of infections, COVID infections, are mild. Over 80% of infections are mild. We're able to see that majority of people recover from COVID-19, so it is not a death sentence. We're able to see that even Kenya, if we look at it on the global map, we have one of the lowest, indeed, case fatality rates of about 1.6% of people who have contracted COVID die, which is quite low compared to many of the other countries. And we're able to see that other diseases kill more people worldwide than COVID. Things such as TB, HIV, cancer, pneumonia, various infectious diseases as well, cardiovascular disease, all top the list in terms of the death tolls compared to COVID. So it is really not as scary as we think.
Maybe if I can ask a question,
Yeah.
connected with COVID, because it's the in thing, in quotes, and everybody, we are wearing masks, and we are adhering to physical distancing, and we are washing our hands, we are using sanitizers, and so on and so forth.
Yes.
If we know that there are some other diseases where quite a number of people, more than the deaths that we have seen are from, let's say, from tuberculosis that you mentioned, or even from malaria.
Yes.
Then why is it that there is so much emphasis? Because I'm sure our viewers will be wondering, if TB, or for example, malaria, or even HIV kills more, unfortunately, more people than COVID has, then why is it that there is such a huge emphasis on COVID-19? Why are we forgetting about these other diseases?
Very, very good question. And these are some of the things that indeed I've been pondering on. And really, I would say two things. One, COVID-19 is a new disease.
That's right.
I'm sure you and myself, when we were in medical school, there's nothing like COVID-19 in our textbooks.
No, absolutely not.
So we are all learning. You and I are still learning. We read every day, on how to treat patients, how to recognize. So it's a new thing. But even more importantly than it being new, we have seen the power and the potency of the media today.
Of the media.
So because of the power of the media, something that is happening in China,
Yes.
you feel as if it is right there in your living room, right there with you.
Absolutely.
Every day, I remember when COVID first hit Kenya, every day, all the news stations, all they were talking about was COVID, 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 COVID.
Yes.
All your WhatsApp groups, I'm sure, have one or two messages or forwards about COVID. Really, if all we're talking about COVID, and even that's why even the Bible says, to really guard our thoughts, in as much as we guard our hearts, also guard our thoughts as well. So Philippians 4 verse 8, whatever is good, whatever is pure, and whatever is noble. So if I feed my mind COVID on a day-to-day basis, the natural end result is I'll think that is the biggest, worst, the biggest bad boy that I need to avoid, and this is the thing that is going to kill me.
Yes.
When in actual sense, malaria is more likely to kill you than COVID. TB is deadlier than COVID. Diabetes itself, really, and cardiovascular disease, there's so many other things that top the list than COVID.
Now, it's very good that you actually brought people, you brought your patients here who have gone through the disease, and they have made it, which is, we thank God for that. There's something that is worrying, because some of these patients, once they recover, they are treated as pariahs. So there is that ostracism. How do we break this? Because I'm sure our viewers are watching, and every time you see somebody say, yule alikuwa na COVID, usikaribie, that sort of thing.
Yes.
And it's not contagious. When you touch that the person who has recovered, it is not going to sort of, you do not jump to you. So what do you think? Because you have first-hand experience with these patients. How do we help our viewers to know that, once somebody has gone through this, they have recovered, they are basically okay, such that they are not ostracized, they don't have that stigmatization?
That's true. I mean, if you remember in your early days in medical school, and when HIV had just come out, a similar story, really. There's a lot of stigma attached to HIV. Just come out, everyone was talking about it, and patients were treated, many of them like lepers. And at the end of the day, the very heart and root of stigma comes about from lack of information.
Absolutely.
Comes from misguidance. Comes from propagation of myths. Fear is inspired largely when you really don't know and don't understand. And the only way to fight stigma, the only way to fight fear, is being able to plug in to powerful but truthful channels
Yes.
of information. So having conversations like this,
Yes.
having talks and listening to experts, not just any Tom, Dick, or Harry, who wants to say, hey, leo nimeona mtu ambaye akona corona, and really at the end of the day, we need to be able to have a firm trust and belief in God, because God is bigger
Than COVID-19.
And amongst all my patients that I have seen, and
Yes.
probably clocking over 50 right now, the recurrent theme in all of them is
Yes.
that I've really had to sit down with them and counsel them, because their mental health
Yes.
I have found to be even more important than their physical health in terms of COVID disease.
Yes.
Because we have to be able to talk them through it. We have to encourage them. We have to give them psychological support. I pray for many of my patients.
Yes.
And instill that hope, so that at the end of the day we need to fortify our minds. So both for the patient and for those who are, because at the end of the day we are either infected or we are affected by COVID.
By COVID-19.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I don't want this to be a COVID-19 session, even though actually it is the hot topic. I just want us to go very quickly through some of the questions which
Sure.
came up during the week.
Yeah.
One of them was, for instance, you talked about reversing diabetes, reversing type 2 diabetes by eating well, exercising well, and so on. So one of our viewers actually asked, what intensity of daily exercise is recommended to reverse diabetes?
Great question. And I will refer him back to the small acronym, FITT.
Yes.
Now, not every type of exercise is actually beneficial for your cardiovascular system.
Then that will be a bit disappointing, I think.
Imagine that. I get many questions from some of my patients. Daktari, I play golf every day. But if you look at golf, really,
Yes.
most of the time you're either standing trying to swing,
Yes.
and then you're walking from one put to the other
Yes.
put, really, and you've not really exerted your heart
Okay.
as much. So really, if you stick to FITT,
Yes.
and F stands for frequency.
Yes.
So we need a minimum of 3 times a week,
Okay.
preferably 5
Yes.
times a week of exercise. Intensity is, I stands for intensity.
Yes.
So whatever exercise you do must make you
Intense.
pant
Okay.
and sweat.
Okay. Golf doesn't make you sweat.
I don't know, I've never played golf.
I also don't know. But there's
Do
a
you
lot
play
of
golf?
walking. No, not
You
yet.
don't?
Maybe one day I'll take it up.
Okay, because really, for example, we're here at Karangata.
Yes.
If I walk from here to Karangata,
Yes.
but that's very leisure. I mean, from here Karangata to town,
Yes.
CBD,
Yeah.
very leisurely, really. That has zero value for my cardiovascular system.
I'm disappointed.
However, if I
But the
increase my
distance,
pace,
what about the distance?
you must exert your
Exert
heart.
yourself.
You must feel your heart pumping, and thud in your chest. So you're
Yes.
panting
Yes.
and sweating. Okay, and the third T, the letter was T, so T, time.
Yes.
So a minimum of 30 minutes
Okay.
a day. So I can't jog for 5 minutes and say, "Yep, that's enough for me today.
And
I'm
you
good."
are panting and you are sweating, but for 5 minutes.
No,
At least half an hour.
at least half an hour.
Okay.
And the last T signifies the type of exercise.
Okay.
So ideally, the cardiovascular exercises that are good, there's 7.
Yeah.
So if you're walking, you must do a brisk walk,
Yes.
jog,
Uh-huh.
swim. Now in swimming, you may not sweat, but you will pant,
But you'll pant, yes.
right? Cycling,
Okay.
okay? Skipping a rope. Many ladies like doing this.
Okay.
It's actually it's not as easy as you think.
Oh, really?
Skipping for 30 minutes.
You see, boxers actually do a lot of skipping, eh?
Yes.
Yes.
Skipping,
Okay.
You may go to the gym.
Yes.
And if you're going to the gym, lifting weights really is not helping your heart much.
Uh-huh.
It's helping your muscles.
Okay.
So if you're going to the gym, go on a treadmill, on
Yes.
a cross trainer, things that will exert you.
Okay.
And the last thing is aerobics.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about Zumba? Somebody may ask you, no? Can I do Zumba? Is that good enough exercise?
I will ask him, is your Zumba, does your Zumba make you pant and sweat? Is it worth 30 minutes?
Yes.
No. Do you do it 3 to 5 times a week?
Yes.
If you do that, then that Zumba is good.
Then Zumba is good.
Yeah.
Okay. So frequency, intensity, time, and what was
Type.
the other one? The type as well.
Type.
So viewers, there you go. So walking, taking a leisurely walk may be good psychologically.
Yes.
But actually, in terms of reversing type 2 diabetes, it may not actually help you a lot.
You need to walk really fast. And brisk, yeah.
So how long do you think it takes to reverse type 2 diabetes? That is one of the questions that came up.
Very good question. There have been studies all over the world, in America, in the UK. Last week I heard of some experiences from the UK.
Yes.
And also locally in Kenya, we have some diabetes clinics that focus on how to reverse it.
Yes.
So for many of them, the consensus really is depending on how far, or how late you are in your diabetes, we can be able to reverse it in about 3 to 6 months.
Okay.
And for those who have, have have had diabetes for a longer time, probably within a year or so. But it requires a lot of dedication,
Yes.
willpower, and consistency.
Okay.
Yeah.
Willpower, consistency, exercise,
Yes.
and obviously the diet. The diet.
Diet, because actually,
Yes.
we talk about, if you're thinking about, weight loss, which is an important strategy
Yes.
in diabetes and hypertension,
Yeah.
80% of your benefits will come from diet.
80%.
80%.
Wow.
And
All right.
20% will be your exercise.
Okay.
So what does this mean? I can do all the exercise in the world that I want,
Yeah.
but if I eat badly,
It still doesn't help me.
you negate everything that you've done when you're
Oh, dear.
exercising. So diet
Diet
is the key.
is okay.
Yeah.
So diet, exercise, what else did we talk about? And what you're doing, your lifestyle, it has to change.
Yes.
If you're going to beat that type 2 diabetes, these have to be there. So the exercise and the diet go hand in hand.
Yes.
A question here which is a little bit scientific, and I'm sure this is one of the things that you look at every time you see your patients, is cholesterol. Now, what is the correlation? Because somebody here wants to know, what is the correlation between cholesterol levels and being diabetic?
Okay, fantastic question. Now, cholesterol, there are different types of cholesterol. There's a good cholesterol and there's a bad cholesterol.
Bad cholesterol.
So the bad cholesterol is what gives you heart attack, cardiovascular disease, and is what is accelerated, especially in diabetics and hypertensives. So cholesterol, to break it down really, is just fat.
Yes.
The fat and the oils that we have in our food.
Yes.
Okay? The body, through various metabolic pathways, there is a reversible link between cholesterol and sugar. Okay? So excess sugar in the body is stored up in the body as cholesterol. And when your sugar goes low, your body is able to take your cholesterol and your fat and
Yes.
burn it to produce sugar or glucose,
Yeah.
which will now be used to power your body.
Your body.
Okay? So as a result, diabetes is a disease of sugar. So diabetics, naturally, because of the excess sugar in the bloodstream,
Yeah.
tend to convert a lot of the extra sugar into cholesterol.
Cholesterol. Okay.
On the other hand, if I eat unhealthy, okay, and I ingest a lot of fatty foods and meats and things that are high in cholesterol, that would, of course, increase my weight. And the fat cells in the body will now, once they're burnt and, metabolized, the fat cells produce hormones
Yeah.
which raise my blood sugar
Okay.
and make me into a diabetic. So it's more of a chicken, egg kind
So
of
it's
story.
a vicious cycle.
It's a vicious cycle. Yeah.
Yes. Wow. There we go. I hope you have learned as Dr. Kim elaborates on the causes of some of these diseases that we have. So-called civilization diseases. Civilization and, hypertension and diabetes have always been known as diseases of the rich, let me put it that way. Now, somebody asks here, what can you say about the increased cases of hypertension in rural areas where people work in chambers, they eat healthy, and they are less stressed. So why do we have an increase in hypertension cases and diabetes in these areas?
Are they less stressed? I know many people in the rural areas right now are struggling, especially the COVID season.
Yes.
But really, that is actually a myth.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of urbanization right now in the rural areas.
Absolutely.
Our diet is not as quote unquote rural anymore.
Yes.
You know, back then, if you look 50, 60 years ago, a lot of our diet was plant-based.
That's right.
Githeri, your mukimo, your ugali, whatnot. But right now, if I go to my local in Muranga, for example, I can get chips. You know, I can get nyama choma
and fried chicken.
and, you know kienyeji and you know whatnot, right?
Yeah.
So we're actually seeing a lot of quote unquote Westernization diseases even
That's
in
right.
the rural areas. Why? Because of a change in lifestyle, diet, lack of exercise, alcohol as well.
Yes.
Which is one of the big risk factors as well. So really, things have changed. So if you look in Kenya 50, 60 years ago, the top killers really were malaria, diarrheal diseases, you know, TB. But right now, diabetes, hypertension, cancer, a lot of the cardiovascular diseases have topped the infectious diseases in terms of, mortality.
So we become civilized.
We've become civilized.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately. Yes.
How can you tie this with, for example, the Japanese, where there's an island in Japan, and there's also another enclave, I think it is in Greece, where they have the longest lifespans. Is this in any way connected with the diabetes, hypertension, the food the diet that we talked about, and so on? And so, what lessons can we get from them, which we can actually borrow and sort of inculcate in our lives?
That's fantastic. Yes, there is a locale in Japan, and they found that these are the guys who live longest.
Yes.
And the healthiest, the lowest burden of disease. And they've actually studied this population and found that actually it is their diet.
Diet. So diet in capital letters.
Diet in capital letters.
Diet in capital letters.
There's also a locale in California.
Yes.
Right? And this town is called Loma Linda. And also in Loma Linda, because of their diet, they have one of the lowest burdens of cancer globally. So they're actually a case study.
Yes.
You know? And all this points to the great truth that indeed we find both in the word and in the health message, really.
Yes.
Diet is actually the key. But many of us tend to ignore this.
Unfortunately.
And we're waiting for the scientists to catch up and tell us broadly. And
Yes.
secular scientists telling us that, diet is actually the key right now. The current scientific medical fad is plant-based diet.
Yes.
Everywhere you turn, everyone is talking about
Plant-based
diet. And these are things really that we've known for the last 50, 60, almost 100 years, really.
But the Bible says, all this, the seeds and the trees, the fruits, I have given you for food.
Yes.
So the scientist is like, plant-based diet.
Yes.
But God actually did give this hundreds, thousands of years ago.
But you see, God is the creator of science.
Yes.
And he's also the creator of the scientists.
Thank you.
So really, scientists have to catch up with God, never the other way around.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Now, maybe one more or two questions as we wind up, because I can see our time is coming to an end. Wherever you go, you find microwaves. There are microwaves, in shops, at home, and so on and so forth. And there have been quite a number of issues coming up in YouTube and so many other places. Do microwaves cause cancer? Is it the waves, or is it the containers that we use to warm the food? Is it true, or is it a myth? What do you think?
That's a very controversial question.
Maybe I just left it for the end.
I'm sure also, I mean, in your gynecology practice, you get a lot of women asking you, can this cause me ovarian cancer and endometrial cancer, my microwave in my kitchen?
Yes.
And basically, the power in the electromagnetic waves, in the small, what they call the microwaves, that are emitted, the power in it is really not enough to damage your DNA. Just like cell phones, for example, which also use radio waves, which are electromagnetic. So a lot of studies have been done, and really we do not have any clear evidence to suggest that cancer has been caused by microwaves, by cell towers, by the mobile phones.
Then, such that we don't sort of forget about children, there's a question here about children getting cancer. Do children get cancer?
Oh yes, definitely they do, and sadly so. Babies, get retinoblastomas, for example, which are cancers of the eye. This week I saw another child with a cancer. There are cancer wards for children. So yes, children do get cancers. We talked about how cancer comes about.
Yes.
And basically, any cell that has the potential to divide and grow has a potential to be cancerous as well. Someone even asked me, do cows get cancer?
Yes, do cows get cancer?
I thought that was probably from a farmer, worried about his cow. But yes, even cows get cancer because, cows have cells.
Yes, yes. So anything that is alive can actually get cancer. Yes. Thank you very much, Dr.
Thank you.
We have been blessed. I'm sure you viewers have been blessed. We have enjoyed all these sessions that we've had. We have learnt about diet. D-I-E-T. Diet in capital letters. We have seen that diet can help reverse most of these civilization diseases that we have. Diet can reverse diabetes type 2. Diet can reduce hypertension, can remove the tension in the hypertension. With the reduction of weight, other things also fall off. Diet can also reduce the chances of getting cancer. So these are nuggets, this is beautiful information which we have got from Dr. Kim Wangai through this week. I hope this is not the last time you'll be joining us here in our church. And we are more than happy to welcome you another time so that you can come and help us, learn a little bit more about these fantastic bodies that God created, and how we can help in being stewards, taking care of these bodies that God has given us. Thank you very much, viewers, and we hope that you have been blessed. And please go back to, if you have any questions, or you may want to look at, go through some of the videos that Dr. Kim Wangai presented. They will be present in our in YouTube and in our Facebook account as well. Thank you very much, and God bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.